Star Wars Battlefront has been out for a while now, but I felt that, for completeness' sake, I should follow through on my word and put the beta impressions video I made into perspective with the full game. If you watched that video, you might have noticed that I was decently optimistic the game would be good. I'm glad I decided to err on the side of caution there and told people to wait for the full release, because my initial optimism didn't last very long. There's no one way to make a Star Wars game, and for lots of people I imagine, the visceral feeling of firing a blaster in the beautifully crafted environments alone will be enough to get them to buy the game, but as a critic I should probably hold games to a higher standard than that. The gameplay of Star Wars Battlefront is mediocre for a variety of reasons, but the overarching issue they all share is longevity, which is obviously somewhat impossible to assess in a beta. A low time to kill is something that quickly unhinges my personal enjoyment of a game, because kill streaks can feel like less of a rush, and getting killed feels less deserved to me. Star Wars Battlefront manages to obfuscate this somewhat, with its gadgets like the jetpack and the shield, but having gone through the initial leveling up process twice now, I can definitely see how many new players would find it frustrating. The choice of weapons you get is fairly limited, which makes the, in my opinion, poor gun balancing even less excusable. The guns feel different enough from each other to suit a player's individual playstyle, but there are some guns like the DL-44 that are clearly more powerful than others, and get used more often as a result to have an unfair advantage over other players. The reason I think it's unfair is this particular pistol is unlocked for people who paid extra money, but the players who own it are thrown into the same matches as people who don't. While I don't particularly mind that in free-to-play games, this is a full-price title, and for people who actually enjoy earning the credits the natural way to eventually unlock the gun, being put up against someone who's objectively more powerful than you can understandably sour the experience. The aerial combat is still awful, it hasn't improved much since I played the beta, and as a result it's a part of the game I just don't use. My biggest complaint of the gameplay is that teamwork is not encouraged at all. The teams have now been balanced a little more, so it's no longer a question of the game pushing the outcome in favor of the Imperial side. Instead, whether you win or lose depends on dumb luck more so than anything else. The game technically tells you where you need to go, but there is no way to easily communicate to your teammates which objective needs more protection at any given time. Why the developers opted not to give people this degree of control is not apparent to me. It seems like it would have improved the game quite significantly. I know I said the game is an arcade shooter and as such should not be treated the same as a military shooter, but there still needs to be a minimum set of mechanics that push the gameplay forward and reward effective team play. The game modes feel like carbon copies of things we've seen in plenty of games before. Blast is Team Deathmatch, Drop Zone is Conquest. The fact that the names are different is not going to make me praise the game for ingenuity. I'm going to slightly dampen my criticism of the smaller hero-based game modes. If you're lucky enough to join with a couple of players who actually know how to play the characters, you have a chance of enjoying a round of Hero Hunt. I think the reason the team play in those smaller game modes works better is because the goal is very tangible. In the large open battles, it's easy to get lost in just trying to kill people without regard for the bigger objective. The biggest indicator I can give you that the mechanics are lackluster is that the player base seems to be fading already, 2 months after release. And the reason I say this is it's difficult to get into a number of the game modes. I don't particularly mind the game being multiplayer only, but aside from the mechanics, that leaves me with only the presentation to criticize. I've said this before about the beta, and I'm going to repeat it again here. The game looks and sounds incredible. The blasters sound the way they should and feel relatively satisfying to use, considering they don't have recoil. The character models are quite authentic and the animations look great. I think the character customization should have been unlocked by default, but hey, with the limited number of weapons, you've got to give people some sense of progression, I suppose. The environments are lovingly crafted and full of awesome little details like the wind blowing away snow on Hoth or a hollowed out tree trunk serving as a tunnel on Endor. It's the best looking interactive Star Wars movie I've ever seen, but that's all it is. It's a piece of fan service. It's not just the lack of higher mechanical depth, that I could have lived with. It's that even those simple mechanics that I'm assuming are supposed to make the game accessible for fans of Star Wars who don't play a lot of games, those mechanics don't fully work. It's fine to jump into without any real aim and just try to slaughter some people to the tune of Star Wars music, And that's why it might actually look fun when you watch a video of it on YouTube, is because it's always relatively short bursts. If this game did not have Star Wars in the title, I doubt it would ever have been bought as much as it has, and honestly, it would have deserved commercial failure. The game relies far too much on its setting. It's what you do with that premise that determines whether your game is good or not. We do know there's at least one other Star Wars game in development right now. Let's just hope that one can redeem the disappointment that was Star Wars Battlefront. See you later.